If first cousin marriage is banned in some states due to birth defects, why are people with confirmed hereditary disorders, e.g., Downs, not banned from having children as well? Eugenics like these were fairly common in the West until Hitler happened. Then it became associated with Nazism, and nobody wanted anything to do with that. Like, it was really common. First cousin marriage isn't banned because of the risk of birth defects. It's because of a cultural taboo against it. Because that's eugenics, and eugenics is a slippery slope. A marriage is a legal contract. The government has no legal authority to ban anyone from having sex, and if they tried, there would be a huge backlash. Besides, people with Down syndrome can have normal children. Most are infertile, and about 99 of the rest have normal children. People aren't banned from having children in the first scenario. They can marry people who aren't their cousins. They can have children with their cousins without getting married. Banning someone from having a child, period, is way more invasive than saying the state won't extend the legal benefits of marriage to a small fraction of potential couples. Having children with your cousin is not banned. Marrying them might be, but having sex with them is not illegal. There's a big difference between banning marriage, banning sex, and banning people from having children. There's also a difference between saying maybe don't have kids with this person and don't have kids at all, with anyone, ever. IMO, whether you have children should be a personal choice between the potential parents. The law should not be involved. Cousin marriage bans aim to reduce genetic risks, while banning people with hereditary conditions crosses ethical lines and personal rights. Science favors informed choices over restrictions. Eugenics. I'd like to add that the practice of marrying cousins is a very long one and only recently became a taboo. It's gross to us, but FDR was married to his. Royalty did and continued to do so for obvious reasons. That is called eugenics, which isn't a very good thing. The dude with the silly mustache did try that and it did not go well. It is morally wrong to deny someone the right to marry or have children solely because they have a disability. I think the primary difference is situation, and no cousin marriage is saying that people can marry, just not to close relatives. So all individuals in this scenario have a chance at finding a partner and having children, even if a small subset of partners are restricted. Situation B, people with genetic anomalies cannot marry restricts that individual from ever having a partner or child with anyone. They must remain single permanently. The former is far less restrictive than the latter. If your line of reasoning and history is true, and I can point to any references to either side, then the philosophical question is different. Banning first cousins and closer for most situations only limits a very limited pool of possible partners, and the rest of the world is an option. Prevent a person from getting married entirely removes their choice entirely and makes them a second-class citizen. The fundamental reasoning error in this argument is that first cousins aren't banned from having kids together. It's socially taboo and they can't marry, but it is legal. You have to choose to have children with your cousin. You don't have a choice in having Downs. Because where do you draw the line? Nearsightedness is a hereditary disorder. So is high blood pressure, diabetes, autoimmune diseases. Where do you draw the line? In this case, it's two people that have a high chance of carrying some recessive mutations that can do some nasty damage with two copies of it in a kid. We learned from the Habsburgs that cousins marrying is a bad idea. Right now, I'd be in favor of banning reproduction between two people carrying illnesses that are fatal to children and young adults. They'd need to do IVF with embryo selection, if their state allows that, or not reproduce. If it's not fatal or painfully debilitating, then I'm not going to make a decision that two people can't reproduce. When it's first cousins or half-siblings or nibbling and aunt-uncle, you get way too big a risk of getting double copies of dangerous stuff. Maybe because genetics are new, but making babies with your first cousin is age-old and already taboo. I think a better question is, why would someone want to bone their cousin in the first place? But medically speaking, inbreeding doesn't necessarily involve hereditary diseases. It merely decreases the gene pool so that the forming DNA strand is less likely to delete mutations. In cases like Down syndrome, heritability isn't a defining factor. Trisomy 21, the most common form, can occur regardless of family history. All it takes is one gamete with an extra chromosome. First cousin marriage is banned in some places due to the perceived increased genetic risk through incest. It's a very, very small increase. A lot of countries actually allow it. Anyway, because eugenics are a very slippery slope, I wouldn't want to be the person to personally inform everyone with Down syndrome they are not allowed to have children and why. That's one reason people use, but it's not the only reason. Another is the risk of abuse. Advocates of legalizing incest often use the argument you're using and claim there's no reason to ban for consenting adults. However, consenting adults are banned from doing all sorts of things because of the risk of abuse or harm. If a woman consents to a discount breast enlargement from a guy isn't a doctor, but watched a YouTube video and can totally do that in his garage, he's still breaking the law even though they both consented, because surgery is too risky to just let anyone do it. Whether the law says cousins are too high of a risk is up to the voters and who they elect. Adolf Hitler's speech bubble.